I appreciate you being here on a lovely Saturday. So please engage. And if you haven't been to one of my events before, uh, hopefully you will love them and be at them again in the future. I haven't hosted a workshop in a while. I used to host them like on a monthly basis almost. And then, oh, how time gets away from you. So hopefully, if you enjoy today's workshop, let me know. Send me a message on LinkedIn. I'll put together some other tips and other topics, and let's keep building this community. So yeah, I'm so happy to have everybody here. So you're already doing it. You're already engaging. I'm just asking you to please focus. You are spending your time today on yourself, on your growth. I imagine that you're interested in a new position. If that's the case, then nothing else really should matter for the next little bit of time here. Please respect each other. You are able to engage in the chat. So if someone says something about their career or maybe says something a little bit vulnerable, because it kind of sucks, everyone, to not be where you want to be. And it's really difficult when you're trying to get a new job in the job market and you're not also making the progress. It can feel like you're being rejected. It can feel like you're not wanted, and it can make you doubt your professional capabilities and success. So we don't need that here. We want to respect each other. We want to support each other, we want to lift each other up. Because honestly, what you choose to focus on, what you commit to, you can create when it comes to your career. With the right strategies, with the right commitment, with the right unique tips, we're going to talk about those today. You can stand out and you can get that job. So I'm going to also ask you some questions. I'm going to ask you to engage, so please do. I'm not going to be able to get to everybody, but there is a Q&A opportunity here. You can select Q&A and put your question in there so it gets saved. And when we get to the Q&A portion today, I will be able to give some specific feedback or advice. So just because you're here, give me a nod, even though I can't see you, or a thumbs up, or throw it in the chat. Yep, I agree that we're going to focus, we're going to respect each other, and we are going to engage today to create success. Okay, I'm just going to make sure, thank you, thumbs up, everyone, that our chat is positive. And I'm going to make sure that, sorry, we have to take someone out of the chat. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to be also watching over that chat and making sure that the right people here and providing positivity and content that we're going to gain from. So if someone is in the chat saying things that don't really need to be here, I'm going to try to knock them out. So just it might take me a second, but please be aware that I'm on it. Okay, it's going to be, like I said, pretty informal, pretty straightforward. I'm a pretty low key kind of guy, pretty calm. I do get excited about job satisfaction though, so I might get a little worked up. But this is not going to be your normal, this is how you get a job workshop. I'm not going to give you the general tips of make sure your resume, looks a certain way or do this when you're in an interview. Look, if you want those kind of tips, we have them. I've done podcasts. You can join a program, you can read some articles. We're going to try to focus on some things a little bit more unique today. So if you need that kind of basic work, which everybody does, I suggest doing a little bit more research and investment in kind of how to navigate the job market. There's some really great materials out there. I know some good podcasts. I have some, but here we're really going to be trying to focus on some more unique tips. So hopefully we're all, prepped and understand the expectations of what we're going to go over today. If you stay to the end, we're going to have a raffle. So generally, I like to offer some job search strategy or leadership coaching kind of sessions to anyone that attends a workshop. They're a little bit lower in terms of time, so about 30 minutes or so, but it's a chance for you to really focus on what you need to solve and to learn. And so if you stick around, there's a little raffle for everyone here today. And then, like I said, you can throw your questions into the webinar chat area, and I'll make sure that we have some time to get to them as well. If you haven't been to one of my workshops before, my name is Dr. Benjamin Ritter. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. If you know me, good to see you again. I'm the founder of Live for Yourself Consulting. I'm an international leadership and career coach and speaker. I'm also a senior talent management consultant. What does that even mean? Basically, I work with leaders to help them become more fulfilled in their career and get jobs that they love, as well as even work for enterprise corporations to assess leaders for selection and development. And I facilitate talent workshops for emerging leaders. So I am enmeshed in the talent acquisition and talent development world. I have worked across industry and across company. And so what I'm sharing with you today is not specific to anyone. It's specific to everyone. So these are strategies, and that's what's so beautiful about looking for a job that can work for you and the person next to you and the person next to you, which is awesome. And yes, they have to be individualized based on your experience and your stories and what you're looking to achieve. But generally, a lot of the rules are the same. It's just they don't really teach us them when it comes to school or in our day to day. I don't know how many dinner parties you've had or people are talking about how to get that next job, but we should do that more often. That should be pretty normalized because more people than you probably realize are unhappy and looking for that next step. Now you're wondering, like, Ben, I don't think this is for me. I thought it'd be just really simple to tell you the types of people that I generally work with. And this is a client that I literally worked with this morning, but also his name's not John, I promise. But they're clients that I always work with. And if this resonates with you, then take a look at some of the other material that I create because you may have a lot to gain. And I'm here because I care about helping people create career fulfillment, to be more happy at work, and more importantly, to feel like they can get a job that matters to them, that they care about, not something that they just maybe fall into or get referred into, or something that they really haven't selected for themselves. And so John, and like a lot of my clients, was a high achieving soon to be executive, senior director actually, who felt stuck in his career, was dealing with a pretty toxic work environment, and that made him start to doubt himself and get a little burnt out. So he started to think, well, what's out there in the job market? So started applying, didn't really hear anything. And if you're in a toxic work environment and you don't hear anything when you're applying to positions, that's pretty much a recipe for I'm not good enough. I'm never going to accomplish anything. And our inner critics, when we feed them, they grow and then become a larger part of our mindset and how we show up each and every single day. And so we start performing less at work. So we get even in, kind of dig our hole a little bit deeper, and we feel like we can't even get a job. So sometimes we even stop applying or trying. This is a recipe for disaster. So luckily, when we started working together, a lot of what I do is reframing and re-empowering. So creating a little bit more empowerment, as well as accountability and proactiveness for getting that next career and that next job. We were able to re-energize how he shows up to work, which gives him more energy for the job search, redefined his career goals, really identified his strengths and his interests, turned that into his professional brand, and then aligned his LinkedIn, his resume, his cover letter, his stories to that brand, which then creates more inbounds. People are interested in you because they know what you're interested in, and then worked on some interview tips and some mock interviews and made sure that he was able to ace the interview. So getting more interviews as well as acing that interview, and then how to negotiate when you get into those final steps as well. So what's so important about this, I want to call this out, is countless new contacts. If you are in the job search right now and just applying on job boards, you are missing out on one of the greatest benefits of searching for a job, and that's creating new relationships. And those new relationships are not just important for your current step, but future steps. And so when you are building new relationships, you should be really leading with curiosity and interest in the people you're connecting to. And they should be people that are going to be one step above you. These aren't people that are where you're at or below you. They're people that are going to help pull you up throughout your career. And if we can add that step to searching for a job, we at least are going to be consistently making progress instead of the 2 to 5% hit rate that we'll get from cold applications online. So please keep that in mind. As I mentioned, we're across industry and across the globe, so please take to heart what I'm going to share with you. Now let's get into it. Okay, 3 mistakes that you're making that are preventing you from getting hired. And the first one is trying to be more than one thing. I started working with a client probably about a week and a half ago. This is pretty much like a rinse and repeat story. And you go to their brand, you go to their resume or LinkedIn profile, and you're just like, well, what job are you going for? What, who are you? Like, what is your experience again? And it's almost like they're so afraid of letting an opportunity pass them by, they never get specific enough about the opportunity that they want. And I promise you, if you can get specific about the type of job you're interested in, type of industry that you want to work for, there are more than enough opportunities in that space for you to focus and target and then to build a community around it. But what tends to happen is we spread ourselves so thin that not only do people not know what we're looking for, but our search is so diluted that we're not able to make progress. So for everyone listening right now, I ask you, Google your name. Go to your LinkedIn profile and say, if I was a stranger and was looking at this, what job would I think that I was capable of, and what would I potentially be interested in? And a really easy thing to do, because sometimes we're a little biased, is to go to our personal relationships and ask them, what are my strengths? What do you think my current job is? I'm not going to tell you. Sometimes it's really interesting. Some of our friends don't know what we do for a living, which are we branding ourselves appropriately day to day? And then even if you've talked to a recruiter already, because recruiters should be their one pillar of the job search itself, go call a recruiter and say, hey, real quick question for you. Don't look at my resume, don't look at my background. What positions do you think I'm interested in again? This is a test to make sure that I'm branded appropriately and see what they say. Because I promise you, probably the majority of people that I start working with need to niche down. And so I would actually like to try this out for a second. If we have some people willing on the call, do you want to share your LinkedIn profile? Do you want to share your name and give us a second to maybe do a little bit of a brand review to say, like, what do we think the job you want is? What do we think your brand represents? And where might we see a potential improvement? Okay, Andrew, thank you so much for sharing. Andrew, give me a thumbs up if you're okay with me sharing your LinkedIn profile on the screen, because I'd like everyone to be involved in this. What do we think, Andrew? I see Laura says feel free, so Laura might be up next unless I get a thumbs up from Andrew. Andrew, you okay with me? Okay, I'm going to share your LinkedIn profile on the screen. Awesome. So let me get this loaded up and then I'll share with everybody. Okay. So you should be able to see Andrew's profile. Give me a thumbs up if you can. Awesome. Okay. So I'm actually going to ask everyone here, and then we're going to do a quick review. What do we think Andrew is looking for? What do we think Andrew is interested in for his next job, just from the headline, from the image, from his profile, from his name? Let's see. We have open to work, chief information officer, chief information security officer, chief technology officer, vice president, director. That seems pretty consistent. Vice president, director, experienced CIO and CISO, strategic IT leadership. Come on, everyone, let's see what you think. Throw it in the chat. Yep, CIO security, cybersecurity, cloud transformation, catalyst for innovation and security excellence, zero trust evangelist. Okay. Does anyone know what zero trust means? Throw it in the chat if you do. I'm kind of curious. He talks about zero trust, talks about leadership, and talks about cybersecurity. Okay, C-suite IT job, assess zero trust maturity. What happens when I click on that? I'm going to actually share my main screen. Let's see here. I'm actually going to share a different screen. Let's do this. Okay, let's keep hearing from all of you. Open up the chat again. Okay. Andrew knows. I said Dr. Aiken knows what zero trust is. Okay, but I'm not sure if everyone does. So I'm kind of curious, is that helping or is that not helping? Depending on your target market. Does everyone know what zero trust is? Is that something specific? Do people ask questions about it? Potentially. But it looks like CIO and CISO. So, and cybersecurity and cloud transformation. So this is pretty niche. IT leadership, I can see that there's some consistency here. I'm a little confused. And maybe how do we make this a little bit more clear for recruiters, maybe? Are we using the keywords that are going to be relevant for your industry? But we know that at least there's IT and cybersecurity. So that's good if that's exactly what you're going for. We see he's featured some posts that align with security breaches and IT security. Wonderful. I think you might have had some help with your LinkedIn profile. You've done it yourself. It's pretty good. I think there's just an opportunity for a little bit more clarity. If you go to his about section, it's a kind of an origin story Generally, what I'll do is I'll put exactly what I want at at the top, or what I'm specifically interested in, to really make sure that it's very clear. And I keep going. Yep, it looks like there's been some optimizing of the LinkedIn profile. But so then I get to his experience, Vice President of Infrastructure Technology. Okay, so leadership IT. I see just public speaker. So if you want to really brand this, let's change the title to be more consistent with the types of positions that you're interested in, not just public speaker. And then again, we have executive information security leadership. Okay, so wonderful. So you are fairly branded well. I would just do a couple things around clarifying some keywords and further branding. Now let's see what actually is in the world about you though. So what happens if I just type in your name and put it in Google? So your LinkedIn pops up first. Photo here for LinkedIn. Certifications around cybersecurity certifications. This is awesome. So if I was to go and say, what is Dr. Aiken, what is he interested in? I'd go IT leadership and cybersecurity. And if that's what you were interested in, then you've done a really great job. And then you just got to make sure that how you're explaining yourself to recruiters and how you're explaining yourself to the people in your life and your connections, that's also what you're leading with. So perfect. Is that, Dr. Aiken, is that what you're interested in? Is it cybersecurity and technology executive leadership roles? Awesome. So that was a really great example of how he is branded pretty astutely for what he's interested in. And as long as when he's getting on calls and he's explaining very much something in alignment with what we just saw, then people are going to think he's consistent and remember that. Now, with zero trust, that could be a tool for other people to remember him if there's an explanation that goes along with it that is unique and memorable. Or there's a story that Dr. Aiken can tell about how he got interested in zero trust so that people now can kind of log that into their memory banks. It's a differentiator if it's not too confusing. So keep that in mind. It's like the people that choose really unique business names. They think it's a differentiator, but generally people forget it. So you just have to go do some tests, go ask some people, hey, what was that thing that, I'm really focused on that is unique? And just see what they say. Just try to test the market. Okay. Let's move on. Unless we have any questions, we can log them in the question and answer area. But just to review, can you please niche down? The greatest fear I see here is that people are afraid of missing out on opportunities. And because of that, they spread themselves too thin, try to do everything and be everything, and don't don't align with anything. So what do you want your focus to be? Priority number one. Do it. Do it for a couple months. See what happens. If it's your priority number one, why shouldn't it be everything? And if you're not sure what priority number one is, then maybe you need to do a little bit of work on career clarity. Figure that out first. But when you also focus on something and you start getting interviews for it and you start having conversations around it and start meeting leaders in the space about it, you learn pretty quickly if it's something that you want to focus on. Okay, so mistake number two is focusing on likability. I have seen time and time again individuals that share with me about how they've been interviewing and how great the conversation was and how they went 30 minutes over and they were so excited and that person didn't get the job and didn't move forwards in the interview process. If this has happened, you please let me know in the chat. Throw it in the chat. Let's normalize this because this happens. You get on an interview, you connect with the person, you went to the same school, you have the same hobbies, you have the same interests, you connect really well, you're really passionate about the same things, and you keep talking and you keep talking. You're like, I'm going to crush this. I'm going to get this job. You're really excited. And guess what? Nothing happens. You had a really great conversation with maybe someone that could be a friend or someone that you're interested in, and you think they're interested in you, and they don't move you forwards. And you're like, what just effing happened? This makes no sense. Why would you almost feel lied to because you wasted your time to get nowhere And that person isn't even going to generally reply to an email because they say, "Oh, I can't give you feedback." So I'm not going to talk to you. And I'm not going to be your friend because I think you're connecting with me just because you want a job. So why do we do it? Because for some reason, and I even did some searching last night, for some reason, this myth appeared in the world that companies hire for likability, companies hire for personality. And there's some truth to companies hire for personality, but they will never, ever let go of the question, can this person do the job in exchange for personality, especially after like entry level roles. So we focus way too much on being liked in interviews and we miss out on proving our skills. We spend all this time connecting and building rapport in showing that we're like them. So we don't have time to share our stories about our job, our skills, and we don't give ourselves time to ask questions. And because we don't ask questions, we don't find out what the job is actually needs, what their goals are. Because if we just take their questions for face value, answer one or two of them, and start talking about how much we're like each other or how we like the same things or the industry, we've now completely lost the chance to vet the company, vet the job, show our interest, and peel back the layers of the question to actually figure out what the real question is, what they're actually looking for. And so now you've spent an hour and a half after a 30-minute interview. You've built maybe a friendship that is never going to last or become anything because the person's not going to connect with you. You haven't learned about the company or represented your skills. So we have to, and I cannot stress this enough, and that's why I keep repeating myself, we have to prove our skills first. And then if there's extra time or in between, build rapport by being respectful. And maybe from the first couple minutes in the interview and the last couple minutes, connect. And to make sure that we're proving our skills, we have to use stories. So you don't tell someone you're funny. You don't tell someone you're expert in the field. You use specific stories. Bonus points to people if they know what model tends to be used for telling a good story in an interview. Throw it in the chat. Would love to see if we have some interview preppers here. They're acronyms. There's two of them. They kind of stand for the same. Yep. STAR. Thank you, George. Yep. And honestly, Megan, in a behavioral question mark, we can use these for anything, for answering any questions. Star and car. Yeah, Carl. Thank you, Megan. Awesome. Yep, you got them. Car tends to be easier to remember because it combines situation and action. So it's like context. There's a couple, like there's some pictures out there that call it something different. But basically, you tell someone what the situation was, you tell them the actions that you took, and you have to tell them what the results were within that situation. And please, generally, almost with every single answer in an interview, you can use a model. You can tell them something about yourself, but then always represent what you're telling them with a story. People remember stories. Stories are actually remembered up to 22 times. Probably the only statistic I'm going to use in the workshop today. 22 times more than facts alone. So use stories. And if you're not sure what stories to prepare, then we can use the job description. So generally, companies really spend a lot of time building that job description. The hiring manager has to approve a job description before it goes to talent acquisition for a recruiter to source from. Now, yes, I've seen some pretty terrible job descriptions, but oftentimes that's the process. And I've worked directly as the head of talent development. I've worked with the head of talent acquisition. I've worked with CPOs, CHROs to build job descriptions, and they are very specific about those bullet points most of the time. And so a lot of the answers you need are in the job description itself. And after you tell a story in an interview, you can use questions to learn more about what the actual goal is that a person is interested in learning about. Because oftentimes when they're asking you a question, there's a reason. They're trying to screen for something specifically. Either, it could be something as general as a competency, but oftentimes it's some specific need they have to fill and why they're looking for someone in this role. And so if you remember anything about this tip, remember that you have to prove that you can do the job better than anyone else. Okay, I see a question in the chat. I'm going to go to it in a second, but I just want to prep. I want to show how to use a job description to prepare questions. and how to prepare for an interview. So if someone can throw a job posting in the chat, I'll pick one, I'll share, and then I'll kind of show you how to use the bullets to learn what they truly want. And then we can also use those questions to learn about who a company truly is. And so let's see, as someone finds a job description to throw it in the chat, let's see what Dr. Aiken says. Is there anything different in approaching a screening interview with the recruiter, not the hiring manager? The the two tips I'll give probably for a screening, well, in for a recruiter, because a screening interview with a recruiter is different than a screening interview for someone that's working for the company. Let's say like a general recruiter working for you. They need to go away with a very specific understanding of the types of jobs you're interested in. And oftentimes, after I'm done speaking with a recruiter that's working for a company, I will send them or instruct clients or help them build this a short paragraph about what you're looking for and your skills. So very much an about you. I am a X professional with a certain amount of years of experience, focused on these specific areas, looking for my next role in these specific industries or these specific types of companies. If you send them that paragraph and maybe even a small little picture with that email, they have something to forward. They also have something to reflect on and to remember about you. Now, when for a company, most recruiters in a company don't actually know much about the job you're interviewing for. For you specifically too, Dr. Aiken, you're probably talking to screening recruiters that are pretty early on in their career. So we have to avoid specific jargon that's going to confuse them. And even with screeners, avoid trying just to have fun with them. They're filling out forms and they're going to go present that form to the hiring manager. You can specifically ask them, what information are you vetting for right now that you know the hiring manager is interested in? Their job is to find someone for the job. So ask them point blank what they need to what they're screening for. Get that information and answer it very directly, succinctly, specifically, and even ask them what they're pulling, what they're pulling from that, if that aligns with their needs. You can ask them straight up. Because again, they're not the hiring manager. They're trying to find people to present to the hiring manager. So please keep that in mind. Okay. Hopefully, if that answered your question, give me a thumbs up. And you can also throw further questions in the Q&A function. So I just saw Laura shared a LinkedIn post. Okay. Thank you everyone for engaging. Share my screen. Okay. So we're looking at a job posting, Senior Workday Lead Analyst, Global HR Reporting. So a lot of the a lot of the information you're going to need is in the job posting itself, at least initially for prep. And so oftentimes the requirement bullets, so here and above to here, and even that initial paragraph here is going to give you information to prepare. So because I have not seen this before, give me a second to go through it. I'm just going to read and tell you my thoughts as I go. So proud to be named one of the best workplaces and best workplace for diversity. Awesome. So from a recruiter for hiring manager, you can ask them what makes them the best workplace. How they measure that. What do they care about when it comes to improving the workplace for their employees? So that's kind of neat. It gives you a chance to learn about the culture and also see what they care about. So that's a question you can ask. Who we want? Detail-oriented process improvers, critical thinkers, okay, optimize work processes. So they're going to care about process improvement. Analytical problem solvers, individuals who go beyond by identifying root causes, evaluating optimal solutions, and recommending comprehensive solutions. So I bet you they're going to have a lot of questions on how you identified a need and how you were able to create a solution from that. So, and your steps are going to have to include how you went above and beyond, how you identified root causes, how you evaluated those solutions, and how you recommended those solutions. So keep that in mind. And then you're going to also have to share information about how you leverage cross-functional relationships. And so here, just in these 3 bullets, you're like, okay, I know exactly what they're probably going to ask me about. So let's keep going because that's just the intro, and we're care really about these bullet points here. So you will work to understand business needs, processing, reporting, analytics. Okay. Be cross-functional, technical expert, supporting teams. So one of your questions can be, what systems or resources do we have to collaborate with other teams? What processes do we currently have in place? Or you can come up with ideas on how you're going to share how you have built cross-functional relationships. Okay, even the next line is about strong collaborative relationships across the organization. So you're going to need a story, how you built relationships with HR COEs, business-facing HR, finance, compliance, audit. So what story do you have to show that you created an improvement on a process collaborating with these functions? Okay, so that's just a lot even from these first couple paragraphs. But let's show you how to take a bullet point and turn it into a question that you can expect from an interview, as well as how you can turn it into a question for yourself to learn about them. So manage all assigned COE reporting projects using a proper project management methodology. May include best places to work, Q12, CEO pay ratio, and leadership scorecards. So I imagine if you know about this specific role in industry, this all makes sense to you. I'm going to pull out what makes sense to me. So what they're probably going to ask you is, can you share an example of how you managed a center of excellence reporting projects using project management methodology? And these might be some of those uh, like actions that they're going to want you to represent. You then can ask them to learn more about what they're really looking for. What COE reporting projects are in the pipeline for Q1 and Q2, or for the first 30, 60, 90 days I'm going to be in this position? From that answer, you now have a potential project you can work on in between interviews to show them at a high level what you would do. So let's do one more. Troubleshoot complex report related issues and resolve them in a timely manner while providing sustainable solutions that support HR's vision and mission. How have you can you share an example of how you were able to troubleshoot complex report related issues that occurred within the HR function? Great. I'm going to ask everyone here. So for this bullet, lead efforts to analyze and optimize report performance in close collaboration with HR function and business facing stakeholders. How would you turn that into a question? What would you do? I'm going to wait for a second until someone provides the answer in the chat. So the bullet is lead efforts to analyze and optimize report performance in close collaboration with HR function and business facing stakeholders. What's a question you would use? I know it may take a second to type. And let's actually just help everyone for a second. Oh, how to do answer with a story, for example, when you have not experienced a situation? Okay, these are great questions. I'm going to get to them. Let me just answer this specific bullet and then I'll answer the questions in the chat. So, can you share an example of how you have led the efforts to analyze or optimize report performance while collaborating with different business stakeholders? Or a question might be, what reports have you developed while working and collaborating with with business stakeholders? Or how have you optimized a report in collaboration with business stakeholders? So hopefully this helps. Hopefully this helps you prepare. You can also take these bullet points and put them in something like ChatGPT and ask the AI to come up with questions for you. But it's helpful to come up with one question to learn more about the company and what they're looking for, and come up with a question to help you prepare a story. Now, if you to Scott's question, if you don't have a story or an example, because this happens sometimes, you're applying for a job you don't have direct experience in, then it is your job to go figure out the answer. You need to figure out how to answer the question, what the best practices are to this specific question. And you have to prove to them that you know just as much as someone that has been doing it for 5 years. It's work. And you can say, and you can direct the answer towards something that they're currently focusing on. So if they say, can you tell us a time when you don't have exact experience in that situation? You can say, that is a really good question. How would this relate specifically to the role? Because I'd like to be specific in my answer. They're going to then narrow it down, and then you take their answer and you use your best practices and the information you know to solve that problem or to input that specific topic into how you would answer the question. And I've had to do this before too. When I started my career in talent development, I had no experience. So they're like, tell us a time when you created a leadership development program. And I'm like, I haven't, but I didn't say that. I go, who is this leadership development program for? And they go, it's for all our people managers. And they go, have they received any training before in the past? And they go, no, they haven't. This is the first program. And you go, great. And then I can use best practices. Some of the key pillars to developing leaders are coaching, feedback, and delegation. We want to focus on managing yourself, managing the work, and managing teams. And then you build an answer from there that relates to them, that highlights the understanding that you have about the industry. So please try that out. Again, this takes preparation, but it can make a huge difference to showing that you're an expert. And never say, I don't have experience in, or I've never done this. Be very careful with saying that. It can be true. So, unless they ask you a very direct question, always try to orient your answers towards the information that you know. And you should know that information about the job because you've done your homework. And Gabe asked, Ben, can you restate the question? We could ask the recruiter about what they're looking for. You can ask them very specifically to say, what are the requirements for this role that you're screening for right now? I'd like to be very specific in my answers. Or if they ask you a question, you can say, can you tell me what's specific about this answer, like what information you're actually looking for? Because I want to make sure that I'm giving you specific information in the limited time that we have. Okay, it's a lot of information, but I want to get to all of it. So the third one is playing it safe. Playing it safe. Yes, we like to stay in our little comfort zone and we get out of our comfort zone. Never again. We never want to get out of our comfort zone. And if you're doing like literally what everyone's doing in the job market, you're just going and applying for jobs, you will consistently get what everyone else gets, which is silence. So I will go on the record and say that the job market is broken. That's why I have a job. I have a job because leaders want to grow in their career, they want to get a new job, and they're not getting any interviews. They're getting into an interview and they're not moving forwards. But they have like 20 years of experience. They're unbelievably credible for the role that they're applying for. You may even see it yourself. You see these job postings and you're like, I match every single requirement on this job posting and I am not getting responses. That's because literally the job market is broken. And we have to play with what's there. We have to apply to jobs. We should leverage recruiters. We should network. We have to go to the interviews, but we don't have to play by all the rules. We can make our own. So some of the things you can do to break the rules, so to speak, is adapt your job titles. So if you worked at a company that had job title like Guru Ninja or something that's very specific or had a bunch of other keywords to it that aren't relevant to other companies, change your job title. As long as it represents the work that you were doing, you can use keywords that represent the jobs you're looking for. The only time you have to be very specific about the job title is when you're getting a background check, or if they specifically ask you, what was this your actual job title? You can easily tell them. Or if you want to be very careful about it, you can just add it as a bullet point underneath that job at the bottom and what the actual job title was. But you don't have to do that. Play with keywords. You're not in handcuffs to use specific job titles on your resume. The other piece is a lot of times I work with clients and they're like, I'm applying to the two jobs that I really want. One, 2 to 5% response rate on jobs if you're just cold applying. So not a very good strategy. Two, if you do get an interview for either of those, and that's the first time you've interviewed, you're probably not going to get the job. That's just you haven't shaken off the rust yet. You haven't practiced your stories. You still have some nerves. You're just not going to show up in the best way. So you also want to have interviews for jobs that you don't really truly care about. So I highly recommend that sometimes when you have a niche, when you're focused, you spray and pray. You over apply because you want to get practice. You want to see if your resume and your LinkedIn profiles are working. You want to see what types of companies and what types of jobs are interested in you. This is all really good information. And so as we go into the job market, we want to find that information. That information helps us get our dream job. We also, when we do get interviews, when we are interested in a company, when we are very passionate about something, we tend to just do that's normal. Like I'm going to apply for the job. That's it. How do you overcommit? How do you solve their problems? How do you engage with people that work at the company? How do you go to their, I mean, if you know where their office is, go in and see if someone will talk to you. How can you show them you care? And this is really for the dream jobs. How do you stand out from the clutter? And I often work with my clients on creating these innovative solutions. And I myself go out there and make connections. And it's pretty incredible the doors I can open by by really being pointed and helping a client and making introductions for my client to people that work at that company in that industry. So who do you know that has a brand? Who do you know that is well known? What do you know that this company cares about? And if you do your research, listen to podcasts, engage in events that they're at, send them maybe something that they care about, or during after that first interview, figure out what they're working on for projects in Q1 and send them some information about that shows that you care and what your skills are. You're going to stand out. You truly are going to stand out. Now, don't get creative with your resume because they can't read those documents if you have a bunch of pictures and colors and all that kind of stuff and tables. Keep it simple on the resume, but you can get more unique on like the cover letter, or you can get unique kind of in the strategies when you engage with them. So remember, there are no rules. Let them turn you down. Do not disqualify yourself from a job. Do not disqualify yourself. If you do not think you're a perfect fit, apply. Go talk to someone at the company. Generally what happens is they might find something about you attractive and now you're selected. So where it took you 5 seconds to apply or 20 minutes to think of something creatively, you now have a potential job opportunity instead of disqualifying yourself. So please never disqualify yourself and make a choice to commit to doing whatever it takes. This is a future job, future career. If it's that important to you, show that it is. So you have to break out of the clutter. So engage with people you care about on LinkedIn, or a company that you want to work for on LinkedIn. Show up, be there, do your research, improve it, and try to be creative. Give yourself some thinking time. Sit back, spend 10 minutes thinking about how you're actually going to get through the clutter for a position. I don't know when was the last time you spent a half an hour trying to figure out innovative solutions to standing out from the clutter. I don't know many people that have. When a rejection is automated, you can't reply directly to that email. If you've been in the interview process, you can reply to someone that you've been interviewing with because you have their email. You can also use tools like Rocket Reach and other companies that will give you the email address of someone that is a hiring manager within that function or department that you can send an outreach to. And if you are sending an outreach to someone that you haven't interviewed with, do not comment on the job because they don't know that you are automatically rejected. It's impersonal. Generally, unless you've talked to them, they have not looked at your resume, or they won't remember your resume. Just talk about getting an introduction and learning about them and their work and their career because the company really interests you. Very often people tend to disqualify themselves again, right? They take themselves down a notch because they think that they have all this focus on they've been personally rejected, so to speak, when really they haven't been. This has happened multiple times where we networked into an opportunity and they had their second interview coming up and they got a rejection email from the automated system. It's like the funniest thing. The system spits you out, but the people that are responsible for hiring move you forward. Okay, that was a lot of information. I want to get you out of here on time and give you a chance to ask some other questions if you have them. But remember, the 3 mistakes you're making that are preventing you from getting hired, trying to be more than one thing. Niche down, focusing on likability. You know, if you can, never stay late in an interview. Like try to say, I have 3 minutes and I have to jump off. Make yourself desirable. Give yourself some status. Focus on skills. Make sure you're asking the right questions or asking questions that are going to help you answer questions in the right way. And stop playing it safe. Get out there, make some magic happen. You have the ability to be creative. Prove it. Prove it. And all these things are really just about you becoming more memorable to the people in your job search. Because I don't know about you, but I can't remember what I ate last night. I can't remember to the podcast I listened to 3 days ago. How is someone that's interviewing a bunch of people going to remember your name? Answer that question for yourself, and you will become closer to getting that next job. Okay, real quick, I've selected some numbers. I already pre selected them. Go to LinkedIn, connect with me, send me a message or an email. Or if you can't connect for some reason, because I know that there's that whole like creator status follower thing, comment a number on my most recent post. Uh, Keep the number under 20. Okay. I think um, the first people that get up to 20 don't not included. So because it will make sure people can go there faster. If you comment on a number, I'll pick 3 people that guess the correct number, and I'll follow up with them because I have people's email address from the tickets to offer them either a free leadership or job search strategy coaching session for 30 minutes for whatever you're interested in talking about. It'll be your time. So go to LinkedIn, or go to my post, or go to send me a message, whatever it is, send a number under 20, and I will pick 3 people that guess the right number, or if no one guesses the right number, close to that number, and you'll get a free coaching session with me. It'll be a little bit shorter, but it should still be pretty powerful. We'll make sure that it's a quick hitter because hopefully you learned something today. Imagine what we can learn in a one-on-one session. So about ready to throw up the Q&A and see if there's any questions, but if you like listening to my voice, I talk a lot. I guest on podcasts, but I also have my own podcasts. I have the Live for Yourself Revolution, where I interview people that are just doing cool stuff, living a story that is truly about them. And we interview and talk to some pretty neat people. They're pretty inspiring and it's pretty revealing what people are working on. And then I also host The Executive, which is really just featuring executives that are doing cool stuff that just talk about being a leader and what leadership means to them. And it's been useful to hear different perspectives because everyone has a different journey to becoming an executive and everyone has a different perspective on leadership. So if you like those, subscribe to them, listen to them, leave a rating or review, but hopefully we can give you some more free content to help you continue growing in your career and on your journey. Okay, we have a little bit of time for Q&A. That was a lot of information in a short amount of time. So let's see what you got. If you have some questions for me, throw it in the chat. I didn't see anything come through the actual Q&A feature. Hopefully you've all entered the contest and I will follow up with people later today. Just have a couple more client calls and some work, and then I'll be sure to get back to everyone. But let's hear from you. Any specific questions now that we have about 10 more minutes left? Let's see what we got. What is the best way to network on LinkedIn? And should I post that I am looking for a job, or does that look desperate? Okay. So, by the way, if you're heading out or you're just sticking around to listen to questions, write something down that you learned, throw it in the chat. It's going to help you remember it. It's going to help that learning stick. So, if there's something that you learned from today's conversation, throw it in the chat and it will help you learn. If you don't want to throw it in the chat, write it down on a piece of paper next to you. Okay. So, first question from Laura: what is the best way to network on LinkedIn to get noticed? Lead with curiosity. Lead with curiosity. If you're networking, you should actively be interested in learning about the person that you're sending a message to. If you send a message to someone that says, I want a job, you look desperate. But more importantly, most people don't think they can get you a job, even though they can. Most people think this is going to be work and I'm going to fail. And I don't know this person. I'm going to put myself on the line. None of those things make me want to respond to this outreach. If you send them a question, really curious about how you achieved XYZ, I'd love to have a conversation with you. All of a sudden now, I think that you want to talk to me about me. And so now, if I respond to you, I am giving to you, but gaining value for myself. So lead with curiosity. Do not send paragraphs and do not ask for a job. So should I post that I'm looking for a job? You can make a post. The one thing that doesn't tend to work is asking for sympathy. When people think that you are needy, you become less attractive. It's just our psychology. It's why, and I'm sorry everyone, I might get some slack for this. It's why the open to work banner on your page is not helping you. People are not going to your profile and going, that guy's open for work. I'm going to get him a job. That's not how people think. And recruiters can already see that you're looking for a job. When people see that symbol, they go, this person is looking for work. I can't help them. Oh, woe is me. I feel bad for them. And they move on. None of those feelings are this person's a professional, this person's an incredible executive, this person's amazing, I want to talk to them. So you're basically putting emotions on yourself. You're changing the story that is not going to be helpful in your job search. So I always recommend to take that banner down and to just show up as the executive, as the leader, as the professional you are. Highlight your skills. Don't highlight that you're looking for work because recruiters are going to see you no matter what. And I know that even people that aren't recruiters will search for people that have experiences, not are open to work. They'll search for people that have experiences that align with the jobs they're looking for. So you still get the same benefits without having to highlight the fact that you are looking for a position publicly. Okay, as an older worker, how do I get interviewers to see past my age? I was saying this last month, I had like 3 or 4 people over the age of 60 get new jobs. I understand that ageism is still a thing. I hope it goes away even more, but I feel like age is being respected. There's a really awesome person out there in the career space called Michael Clinton. He has a book called Roar, and I've actually interviewed him. He has an awesome podcast too. He tends to work with people kind of in that second chapter of their life or third chapter of their life. It's like that next mountaintop. What is it? He has some great information on this topic. But one of the one things I can say is try to de-age your resume. So try to only feature experience from the past 10 to 20 years. And even like past 15, I tend not to, but sometimes depending on like the algorithms of counting your years, you want to have at least the years there. Take out the years from your education, tends to be pretty helpful. And just try to de-age as much as possible, just so that it highlights experience instead of like the, longevity. Let's see what else we have here. Thanks for sharing the things that you learned. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you all for sharing. Okay. Final call for questions before we go back to our lovely weekend, which is probably still a little bit of work. Ooh, about weekends. You know, it's a really good time to message people for networking. Sunday mid evening, around 6 or 7. People are on LinkedIn. They're not doing anything else. They're prepping for the work week. They're scrolling. You want to find a connector? 6 or 7 o'clock at night on a Sunday evening. Try that out. Okay, thank you everyone. I am so happy you're able to make it today. I had a lot of fun with all of you. I'm about to get back to work. I know you are too, but hopefully you're going to go have a little bit of fun and enter that raffle. Send me a message on LinkedIn, and I hope to see you in the future. Ooh, Gabe, great question. You do not have to cater every resume to a job application. You're going to lose your mind. Like you're going to bang your head against the wall and get discouraged. What you can do is create a couple different resumes per job title you might be interested in. Now, this should still be niched, but and marketing is a kind of big area where this is helpful. Product marketer, growth marketer, demand gen. Sometimes you just have to change those keywords, even though it relates to the same kind of work. So if you're in that like similar place where different jobs tend to relate to the same type of work, but they use different names and different keywords, just have different keyword resumes. You don't have to change the bullets. Okay. Thanks again, everyone. Had a blast hanging out with all y'all. Live for yourself, crush it, and sending positive career vibes to everybody.